Let's look at the next spreadsheet task from the 2025 Higher Admin and IT assignment. Now I know straight away it's a spreadsheet task because just quickly reading down the question there, I can see it says print in value view and formula view. So straight away we know it's a spreadsheet. It's asking us here to look at recent car finance deals to see whether our promotions have been successful. Interest on our finance deals is charged at the following rate. So basically, if a customer has to borrow money through a finance deal to pay for the car, they're going to get charged interest depending on how much they are needing to finance. So if it's less than 15,000, if the vehicle is less than 15,000, they'll be paying an additional 8% interest. If the car is between, or the finance deal is between 15,000 and 25,000, it'll be 7.25% interest. And if it's more than 25,000, it's going to be 6.95%. It's telling us to complete the car sales worksheet and to action and delete any comments in the file. So looking at our list of files, we do have a spreadsheet called Finance Deals, so let's open that up now and have a look. So I've opened up the finance spreadsheet and I can see we're in the car sales sheet. There's another sheet, summary of sales, that comes later, but when we click onto it, anytime we have to summarize, if it's not a pivot table, it's going to be a COUNTIF and or a SUMIF, but we'll deal with that later. Back to the car sales, and the first part of the task, we have to complete columns F, G and H. I can see that in column I there's already a figure in there, albeit 0, and I can see up in the formula bar that formula has been put in already. So we need to complete columns F, G and H. Well, the first column has, well, strictly speaking, it's a note, not a comment. There's two different things now. But anyway, the note saying all customers are required to pay a 10% deposit of the purchase price. So we can do that right now. Click in the cell F2 equals, it's 10% of the purchase price. So click on the first purchase price, multiplied by either 0.1 or 10%. That's the way I like to do it, like that, and just click on enter return. Copy the formula down. The quickest way is take your thin black cross, and if you left double click it, it does it all for you really quickly. So the amount to finance. If the purchase price is in column D, there's a dealer discount, so we'll take off the dealer discount and we'll take off their deposit, and that leaves just the amount that's required for the finance deal. So this one again is quite straightforward. Equals, we'll take the purchase price, we'll subtract the discount, and we'll subtract the deposit paid, and we are left with the amount to finance. Once again, we can just left double click to copy that down. You'll see there that the column I has now been populated. Okay, now for the interest charged. This is where we have to look at our table in the question. So dependent on the amount to finance in column G will determine how much interest is going to have to be paid. There's two ways to do it. I'm going to show you both ways. I personally think the easiest way is the ifs function. So I'm going to bring that one up first. If I do equals IFS and open the bracket, I'm going to use the FX box. I think it's easier, and let's pull that up. Now, you may be showing something different. I have always just started with the highest value first. So I'm actually going to look at my table and I'm going to kind of go backwards. I'm going to start with the highest value of finance. So what I'm saying is, logical test 1, I need to look at the amount to finance in G2. And the first sort of condition here is if it's more than, greater than 25,000. If the finance amount is more than 25,000, I can see from the table that if that is true, the interest rate is going to be 6.95%. All right. The next one, logical test 2. This time, if the amount to finance, again in cell G, well, it's between 15,000 to 25,000. So I'll put here, if it's greater than equal to 15,000, all right, and essentially anything up to 25,000, then the interest rate we can see here has to be applied at 7.25%. Slightly annoying is we get down to logical test 3, so once again we will again look at G2, and finally if that is less than 15,000, and I'm looking for the value if true 3, it's not there. To pull that up, just click on your tab key and that will give you the value if true 3. So what we're saying is if it's less than 15,000, we are going to be applying at 8% interest. Now, if I click on OK, which I will right now, and you'll see that the first one that's been returned for the interest charged is 7 pence. Well, clearly that is not correct. And what actually it's returned back at this stage is just the rate of interest. That cell has been formatted for currency. If I went up and had a quick look at the number there, and if I had a quick look to see what would that be as a percentage, do you see there? 7.25%. Now I'm not going to change it to percentage because I want it as a value. But just to say then that all this section here, all this ifs function you've done will bring back either 6.95%, 7.25%, or 8%. We then would have to take that percent and multiply by the actual amount to finance. So I'm having to add on multiply by G2 at the end, and whatever percentage it's going to be, it will multiply by the amount to finance. Click on enter, and there you'll see there's the first one, and then left double click to populate that. So that is how we tackle it using the ifs function. Now if you have been taught to use the nested if, how I would tackle that one would be equals, I'll start with like a normal if function and open the bracket. Now I don't use the FX box for that, I think it's a bit complicated. So if you are used to doing an if statement, a nested if statement, I would be starting off to say amount to finance there. So if G2 is greater than, and again I'm going to start with the highest value down to the lowest, greater than 25,000, okay. If that is true, so with my comma it moves me on, if that is true, we're going to apply 6.95%. And the whole point of the nested if is when we do our comma value if false, we're not there yet, we have to bring in if again. So if open bracket, that's the nested part. If this time the amount to finance is greater than or equal to 15,000, all right, if that is true, then we're going to be getting a 7.25% interest. With the nested if, when I do my comma, it will bring me to the value of false. So essentially, it's either going to be 6.95% or it's going to be 7.25%. If it's neither of these, value of false, it's going to have to be the 8%. Okay, so that would be the nested if, and of course with the nested if we've opened up the if function twice, so we'd have to close the second of the two ifs there. You'll see there the coloured brackets, red to red, and then we have to kind of close off the original if. That's why there's two closing brackets there, and click on enter. And once again, you'll see there it's done the same thing, and that's the percent, albeit it's been formatted as currency. We'd have to go back up and then do multiply by, and again we're basing it on the amount to finance, like that, and then copy down. So I think the ifs function is perhaps easier because you can use the FX box, but that's the way we would do the nested if. And to finish this bit off, the question's asking to print in value view and formula view, ensuring each printout fits on one side of A4, and it's saying there omit the information make and model. So we would have to essentially just highlight the columns, right click and just hide, and then we're going to have to print this off, making sure it fits onto one side of A4. So just please remember, I think the quickest way to do it, the easiest way, is highlight the data, then go to file, then print. All right, right now it's showing me I'm on page 1 of 2, but if I switch that to print selection, okay, it's still page 1 of 2 there. There's a column there not quite fitting. So under scaling, I'd be putting fit all columns onto one page, and that would do the trick, page 1 of 1. All right, you may have to go back and put your name, task, school, or whatever as a footer, but for printing purposes, selection, fit columns on one page, that would sort out the values view. If I just go back and switch it to formula, if you go to the formula tab and switch to show formula, well, of course, as we know, certain columns widen out and certain ones don't. The important thing is to make sure that we can see clearly the actual formula. So I'm just narrowing down these columns. The interest charge, that's a really big calculation there, so I'm going to have to stretch that out. Maybe not as much as that, but you have to sort of work with that and then highlight the selection. It may well be that you prefer to change from page layout and go into landscape just to make sure everything fits, and then go to file and then print, and then you'll see there's the evidence, page 1 of 1, and whoever's marking your sheet there can clearly see the full formula that you've used for the task. Now the last part of this task, it's saying here, in addition, I would also like a summary of our sales. Complete the summary sheet to find the number of sales and the dealership discount for each make. Right, it's the dealership discount, column E. So let's switch to summary of sales and see what we can do here. So we need to count how many of each of the makes of cars there are. So that's going to be the COUNTIF. So in cell B2, we start off with equals, you'll see there count, well, fourth one down is COUNTIF, we can open that one up. And this one would be helpful in the using the FX box here, function argument box. And so let's just bring that up. We're looking for a range. Well, if we have to count all the makes of cars, we're going to have to go down and look down that column. So I'm going to switch to my car sales. Alright, and I actually unhid the make and model again so we have that information. So we need to essentially, we're just going down through all those cars. Now because we're copying down for this, I am going to lock this into place. So I'm going to go into function, well, I have to do function F4 on your keyboard, it's just probably F4, but we have the $sign and lock that list into place. We're going to click on criteria. It's going to switch us back to the actual summary of sales table, and so the first criteria we need is we're starting with the nexus in A2. We're not locking that in because we have to copy down through all the makes and count all of them. So let's click on OK, and you'll see there we've counted 2 of the make nexus, and if we copy that down we will pull all the other ones across. And then we have to get the total dealer discount for each make. So that is going to be a SUMIF. So in cell C2 equals, we'll just type in SUMIF and open the bracket. That's maybe a quicker way to do it. I'll switch to the FX box there. And now we're doing almost the same, but it's looking for range, criteria, and sum range. So our range, we're still having to look through all the makes of cars. So I will have to switch to car sales. I'll do the same thing again, highlight my list that has all the cars in it, and I'm going to once again lock it into place with the $signs. Criteria, same as before, we're starting with the nexus, not $signing that because we're copying down to arrow. The sum range, let's click on to that, and it's the total dealer discount. So let's switch back, and we can see there, if I move that box out of the way, the dealer discount is sitting in column E. So once again I'm going to select all those discounts. Alright, we're going to lock it into place because we're copying down. It does actually give us a figure there, 3250. So if there's something there, that will indicate to you that you're doing the right thing. Click on OK, and then we're going to copy that down. So that was what was required for that question, and once again you'd be asked to print the value view, which you're seeing there, and the formula view also. And once again, just to remind us, please just stretch out so that your function is, you can see it in full. Okay, so that's how we tackle that spreadsheet task.